Good day everyone. Today we are going to discuss about principal roots of rational and irrational numbers. Bago tayo mag-proceed sa pinaka-topic natin, meron muna tayong mga words na kailangan muna nating i-define. So yung una, yung perfect square of a number. It is a number that can be expressed as a product of an integer and itself. Ibig sabihin, pag sinabi nating perfect square of a number, ito yung sagot kapag nag-multiply tayo ng number at saka yung sarili niya. So, sa multiplication table natin, meron tayong integer. So, pag binultiply mo daw yun sa sarili niya, yung pinaka-product natin, yun yung perfect square of a number. So, as you can see, yung naka-highlight natin na 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on. Perfect square of a number siya kasi galing siya sa 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, and so on. And then, yung mga nasa color white naman natin, ang tawag natin sa kanila, non-perfect square. Okay, so ito, yung mga examples ng perfect square of a number natin. I suggest na kabisaduhin nyo yung mga perfect squares natin kasi mas magagamit nyo siya kahit sa higher level. Okay, so we have 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, and so on. Okay? So, let's have an example. So, sabi natin, perfect square is a product of an integer multiplied by itself. So, let's say 3 times 3 is equal to 9. So, yung integer natin, yung 3, so pag minultiply mo sa sarili niya, so 3 times 3, yung product is 9. So, yung 9, ang tawag natin sa kanya ay perfect square number. Also, pwede natin sabihin na ang 9 is a square of 3. Okay? So, when we say square, ibig sabihin, exponent niya is 2. Another, negative 5 times negative 5 is equal to 25. So, sa rules natin ng multiplication of integers, negative times negative, it will gives us positive. Kaya ang sagot natin is positive 25. Okay? So, 25 is what we call perfect square number, and we could say that 25 is a square of negative 5. So, kapag nagmumultiply tayo ng number by itself, ang tawag natin dun sa process na yun is squaring of a number. So, that means n times n is equal to n squared. Now, ang opposite naman or yung inverse ng squaring of a number, ang tawag naman natin sa kanya ay taking the square root. So, ang symbol natin for the square root is what we call radical sign. So, as you can see dun sa ating board, meron kayong parang division house. Kaya lang, ang pinagkaiba niya sa division house, meron siyang buntot na maliit. Okay, so pag may buntot siya, radical sign ang tawag natin doon. Pero pag wala siyang buntot, division house or division symbol siya. Okay, so yung product natin na n squared nasa loob noong radical sign. And then, yung magiging sagot niya, yung integer natin. Okay, so para mas maintindihan, let's have another examples. Okay, so squaring a number and then yung opposite niya. So, 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Or we could simply write it as 3 raised to the second power is equal to 9. So, pag ilagay mo siya sa opposite niya, we have the square root of 9 is equal to 3. So, ibig sabihin, mag-iisip ka ng number na kapag minultiply mo sa sarili niya, ang sagot ay 9. Parang ganun siya, okay? So, another, negative 3 times negative 3 is equal to 9. Or we could write it as the quantity of negative 3 raise it to the second power, which is equal to 9. So, kapag ang opposite naman niya, we have square root of 9 is equal to negative 3. Another example, 5 times 5 is equal to 25. Or we could write it as 5 squared is equal to 25. So, ang opposite niya is square root of 25 is equal to 5. Another, negative 5 times negative 5 is equal to 25. Or we could write it as the quantity of negative 5 squared is equal to 25. So, ang opposite, square root of 25 is equal to negative 5. So, kung mapapansin mo, dun sa ating taking the square root, parehas lang po yung ating perfect square number. Pero, pagdating dun sa sagot niya, isang positive, isang negative. So, when we are taking the square root of a perfect square number, dalawa yung possible answer. So, if we have the square root of 9, ang sagot niya is positive 3 and negative 3. Okay? Pero, sa atin, the positive answer lang yung kukunin natin, yung gagamitin natin. Okay? So, yung positive answer natin is what we called the principal root. Okay? Now, the square root of a perfect square number is called rational numbers. So, kapag yung kanina, di ba, in-introduce natin yung perfect square numbers at saka yung non-perfect square numbers. So, yung mga perfect square numbers natin, pag kinuha natin yung square root nila, rational numbers yon. Now, kapag kinuha naman natin yung square root ng non-perfect square numbers natin, irrational numbers ang tawag sa kanila. Okay, now, let us determine whether the given is a rational or irrational. Now, if in case that the answer is rational, give its principal root. So, ibig sabihin, i-identify lang natin kung rational or irrational. Paano natin malalaman? Kapag rational siya, kapag meron kang square root. Kapag irrational ka, wala kang square root. Okay? So, square root of 81. You're going to think of a number na kapag minultiply mo sa sarili niya, 81 ang sagot mo. So, that is 9 times 9. So, ibig sabihin, square root of 81 is rational. Another, square root of 75. You're going to think of a number that if you multiply it by itself, 75 ang sagot. Meron ba tayo nung integer na pag minultiply mo, 75 ang sagot? Wala. So, that means square root of 75 is irrational. Another, the square root of 50. So, mag-iisip ka ulit ng number na kapag minultiply mo, ha? I repeat, multiply. Pag minultiply mo sa sarili niya, 50 ang sagot. Okay, wala rin po. So, that means irrational. I guess, meron sa inyo ang nasa isip nila, Ma'am, 25. No, it's not. Kasi 25 plus 25 is 50. Ang operations na ginagamit natin is multiplication. So, kapag minultiply mo ang 25 by 25, it will not give us a product of 50. Kaya, square root of 50 is irrational. Next, square root of 90. Mag-iisip ka ng number na pag minultiply mo, square root of 90 ang sagot. Or, 90 ang sagot. So, meron ba? Wala. So, that means square root of 90 is an irrational number. Next, square root of 144. So, mag-iisip ka ng number na pag minultiply mo sa sarili niya, 144 ang sagot. So, we have 12 times 12. That means, square root of 144 is rational. Kaya, ang sinabi ni Ma'am kanina, I suggest na kabisado mo yung mga perfect square of a numbers natin from 1 to 30. Para mas madali mong ma-determine kung rational or irrational yung isang number. Okay, now, paano naman natin malalaman yung square root ng mga irrational numbers natin? So, we have square root of 75, square root of 50, and square root of 90. So, these are the examples of irrational numbers. So, paano ba natin siya malalaman? First, okay, sa square root of 75, mag-iisip ka ng number or mag-iisip ka ng perfect square number na mas mataas kay 75 at mas mababa kay 75. Yung pinakamalapit kay 75. Okay? So, yung pinakamababa na perfect square na malapit kay 75 ay 64. And the square root of 64 is 8. Yung mas mataas kay 75, pero ang pinakamalapit na mataas kay 75 na perfect square ay 81. And the square root of 81 is 9. So, we could say that the square root of 75 is between 8 and 9. Square root of 50. So, mag-iisip ka ulit ng mas mababa at mas mataas na perfect square, pero yung pinakamalapit kay 50. So, yung mas mababa kay 50 is 49. And the square root of 49 is 7. Yung mas mataas naman kay 50 is 64. And the square root of 64 is 8. So, therefore, square root of 50 is between 7 and 8. Next, square root of 90. So, ganun ulit, mas mababa at mas mataas kay 90 na perfect square. So, we have 81, which is the square root of 81 is 9. And then, 100, the square root of 100 is 10. So, we could say that the square root of 90 is between 9 and 10. So let us try this. Let us determine the two integers between which the given square root lies are the following. So square root of 30, saan siya makikita? Between what two integers? The square root of 129, square root of 209, square root of 295, and the square root of 500. So, i-post mo muna yung video na to, tapos sagutan mo. And then, once na may sagot ka na, pwede mo na ulit i-continue to check your answers. Okay? I guess na meron ka ng sagot. Let's see kung tama yung sagot mo. And I hope that you got perfect 5 para sa activity na to. Okay? Now, how are we going to approximate the square roots of the following to the nearest tens? So, hindi naman pwedeng dalawang integers lang yung hahanapin natin para makuha natin yung square root ng mga irrational numbers. Sometimes, we have to approximate it. Okay, so meron tayong dalawang approximation na gagawin. Yung una, yung to the nearest tens, and then yung pangalawa is to the nearest hundreds. So, before we proceed to the nearest hundreds, kailangan maintindihan muna natin yung nearest tens natin. Okay? So, for example, we have the square root of 75. Sabi natin kanina that the square root of 75 is between the square root of 64 and square root of 81. So, that is 8 and 9. So, square root of 75 is between 8 and 9. So, ibig sabihin, meron tayong 8.1 hanggang 8.9. Okay? So, yung 8.1 hanggang 8.9, i-divide natin into 2. So, yung unang part is 8.1 hanggang 8.4, and then yung second part is 8.5 hanggang 8.9. Now, para malaman natin kung sino yung dapat natin gamitin, isusubtract natin yung 75 at saka yung 64, which is 11. And then yung isa naman, yung 81 by 75, which is 9. So, kung sino yung pinaka mababa, so ibig sabihin, yun yung gagamitin natin kasi ibig sabihin, mas malapit siya doon. So, therefore, ang kukunin natin is yung 8.5 to 8.9. So, paano natin gagawin yan? Okay? So, yung decimal natin, that refers to 8.5, 8.6, 8.7, 8.8, and 8.9. And then, we are going to square the decimal. Ibig sabihin, i-multiply mo sa sarili niya. Kung 8.5 siya, that means 8.5 times 8.5. Kung 8.7 naman siya, ibig sabihin, 8.7 times 8.7. Okay? And then, we are going to get the difference nung ating square doon sa given. So, for example, yung 8.5 natin, so pag minultiply natin yung 8.5 sa sarili niya, it will gives us 72.25. So, yung difference niya doon kay 75 ay 2.75. Yung 8.6 naman, pagka minultiply natin sa sarili niya, that's 73.96. Ang difference naman niya kay 75 ay 1.04. Then 8.7, ang square niya ay 75.69, and then ang difference niya is negative 0.69. And then ang 8.8 naman natin is 77.44, and then ang difference niya is negative 2.44. And then yung 8.9 natin is 79.21. Then ang difference niya is negative 4.21. So, dun sa difference natin, titingnan natin kung sino yung pinakamalapit kay 75 or kung sino yung may pinakamababang difference natin or rather, pinaka-close kay 75. And that is 8.7 kasi meron lang siyang difference kay 75 na 0.69. So, that means square root of 75 is approximately 8.7. Okay? So, let's have another example para mas maintindihan siya. So, sabi natin that the square root of 50 is between square root of 49 and square root of 64. That means 7 and 8. So, we could say that the square root of 50 is between 7 and 8. So, ang gagamitin natin is 7.1 hanggang 7.9. So, hahatiin natin sa dalawa. Meron tayong 7.1 hanggang 7.4 and then 7.5 to 7.9. Now, sino yung gagamitin natin between the two or sino yung kailangan natin hanapin para hindi naman lahat kukunin natin. Okay? So, isusubtract natin yung ating mga perfect square at saka yung non-perfect square natin. So, 50 minus 49 is 1. And then 64 minus 50 is 14. So, ang mas mababa is yung 50 minus 49, which is 1. So, ibig sabihin, yung 7.1 hanggang 7.4 ang gagawa natin ng table. So, meron tayong decimal, yung square ng decimal natin, and then yung difference niya doon sa given natin, which is the square root of 50. Okay? So, let's have first the 7.1. So, 7.1 times 7.1 will gives us 50.41. And then, ang difference niya kay 50 is negative 0.41. 7.2, ang square niya is 51.84. Ang difference niya is negative 1.84. 7.3, and then ang square niya is 53.29, and then ang kanyang difference is negative 3.29. So, kung mapapansin mo, palaki ng palaki yung difference niya. So, I guess, pwede mo nang hindi i-continue kasi lumalayo ka na ng lumalayo kay 50. Ibig sabihin, so, ang mas malapit natin kay 50 is yung 7.1. So, we could say that the square root of 50 is approximately 7.1. Okay, now, let us approximate naman the square root to the nearest hundreds. So, kung naintindihan mo na yung nearest tens, ganun din yung gagamitin natin sa nearest hundreds natin. Pinagkaiba lang, medyo mas mahaba yung process natin sa nearest hundreds natin. Okay? So, let's have again the square root of 75. So, kanina, sabi natin that the square root of 75, sa nearest tens natin, that is approximately 8.7. Okay? So, since hundreds na yung hinahanap natin, ang gagawin natin is, kukunin natin yung dalawa na may pinakamalapit kay 75. And that is 8.6 and 8.7. Kasi yung difference niya is 1.04 at saka yung 0.69. Okay? So, we could say that the square root of 75 is between 8.6 and 8.7. So, ang gagamitin natin na decimal ng hundreds is 8.60 hanggang 8.70. Okay? Hahatiin natin ulit sa dalawa. Okay? Pero, meron tayong gitna na 8.65. So, yung pinakagitna natin na 8.65, kukunin natin yung square niya. So, 8.65 times 8.65 will gives us 74.8225. So, dahil mas mababa siya sa given natin na 75, ang gagamitin natin bale is yung 8.66 up to 8.70. Kung nagkataon na mas mataas siya dun sa 75, ang kukunin dapat natin yung 8.60 to 8.64. Pero dahil mas mababa siya sa 75 sa given, ang kukunin natin yung 8.66 to 8.70. So, magkakaroon ulit tayo ng table. Yung decimal refers to 8.66 hanggang 8.70. And then, kukunin natin yung square, tapos kukunin natin yung difference. So, we have 8.66 times 8.66 will gives us 74.9956. So, ayan na po siya. Okay? So, I guess, alam niyo na kung paano yung process, kung paano nakuha yung sagot dyan sa table natin. Okay? And then, yung may pinakamalapit natin dyan, kay 75 will be the 8.66. Kasi yung difference niya, siya yung pinakamaliit na difference kay 75. So that means we could say that the square root of 75 is approximately 8.66. Next, the square root of 50. So, kanina, sabi natin, sa square root of 50, nung in-approximate natin siya to the nearest tens, that is 7.1. So, ngayon, kukunin natin yung dalawang pinakamababa or yung pinakamalapit kay 50. So, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin yung 7.2 kasi lumayo na siya kay 50. So, instead of using 7.2, ang gagamitin natin is yung 7.1 and the 7.0, which is 49. Okay? So, dahil yan yung dalawang gagamitin natin, meron tayong 7.00 hanggang 7.10. And then, yung pinakagitna natin is yung 7.05. So, kukunin natin yung square ng 7.05. It will gives us 49.7025. So, dahil mas mababa siya kay given na 50, ang gagamitin natin is yung 7.06 hanggang 7.10 na decimal. So, gagawa ulit tayo ng table, decimal, square of decimal, and then the difference to the given. So, we have 7.06, then imumultiply mo pa rin sa sarili niya, it will gives us 49.8436, and then ima-minus mo siya kay 50, will gives us 0.1564. So, ganun din kapag kay 7.07, times mo sa sarili niya, will gives us 49.9849. And then, pag minus mo siya kay 50, it will gives us 0.0151. So, gagawin natin siya hanggang magawa natin yung 7.10. And then, dun sa difference natin, titingnan natin kung sino may pinakamalapit kay 50. Kasi siya yung may pinakakonting diferensya mula kay 50. And that is 7.07. So, ibig sabihin, the square root of 50 is approximately 7.07. Now, baka mapansin nyo, ma'am, ba't kanina sa nearest tens natin po, square root of 75 is approximately 8.7. Not necessarily na kapag ang tens mo ay 8.7, pagdating sa hundreds, dapat 8.71, 72, 73, or so on. Hindi siya. Depende pa rin po yan sa magiging table natin. Kaya gumagawa tayo ng table para makita natin kung sino yung mas malapit. Okay? So, let us try this. Estimate the principal roots up to the nearest hundreds. So, square root of 30, square root of 129, square root of 209. I-post mo muna yung video na to, then try mo sagutan. Sundan mo lang po yung procedure kanina sa video natin. Pwede mo siyang i-rewind para makita mo ulit kung paano yung process. And then, pag may sagot ka na, pwede mo na siyang i-continue para ma-check mo kung tama yung sagot mo. Okay, I guess na meron ka ng sagot. Let's see kung tama yung sagot mo. Okay? So, I hope nakakuha ka ng perfect 3. At kung sakali man na hindi, pwede mong balikan yung process kanina para malaman mo kung saan ka nagkamali. At nang sa ganun ay maitama mo yung part na nagkamali ka. Okay, now, so nakapag-approximate na tayo ng ating irrational numbers. Now, this time, let us plot the square root of irrational numbers on a number line. So, magkakaroon ka ng number line and then, saan ba natin makikita yung ating mga square root? Kasi hindi nga siya eksakto, di ba? So, paano gagawin natin? Okay, let's have an example. The square root of 75. So, sabi natin kanina, square root of 75 is approximately 8.66. So, ibig sabihin, square root of 75 is between 8 and 9. So, gagawa tayo ng number line na merong 8 and 9. Okay? So, sabi natin sa number line, we have 0 sa middle, and then going to the right, so that means positive integers. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. Okay? Pero hindi mo na kailangan magsimula sa 0. Pwede ka namang magsimula kay 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. Okay, depende sa yan. Basta take note, pag gumawa ka ng number line, dapat may arrow both sides. Ibig sabihin, extended siya. Okay, hindi ka basta gagawa lang ng guhit. Dapat merong arrow sa magkabilaang dulo. Okay, so since nasa pagitan siya ng 8 and 9, and then ang ating approximate kanina ay 0.66, so ibig sabihin medyo lagpas siya ng konti sa kalahati between 8 and 9. Okay? So, ipa-plot natin siya. Bandang yan. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, yan na po yung ating plot. Yan na po yung pinaka graph natin with square root of 75. Another, square root of 50. So, sabi natin, square root of 50 is approximately 7.07. So, square root of 50 is between 7 and 8. So, yung number line natin, dapat merong 7 and 8. So, we could start at 6, going to 9, and then extended yung line natin. Dapat may arrow both sides, okay? So, sabi natin, between 7 and 8, at kung mapapansin mo, that is medyo malapit na yung ating approximate sa 7 kasi 0.07. So, ibig sabihin, pag naglagay ka nag-plot ka ng square root of 50, medyo malapit siya kay 7. Okay? So, I want you to try this. So, plot the following irrational numbers in a number line. So, square root of 30, square root of 129, and the square root of 200. So, makakapag-plot ka kapag nakuha mo na yung iyong approximation. Once na meron ka ng sagot, i-post mo muna tong video na to, then kapag may sagot ka na, pwede mo na ulit i-continue to check your answers. Okay? So, I guess may sagot ka na, and I hope na nakakuha ka ng perfect 3, okay? So, in case na hindi mo siya nakuha ng tama, maybe there's something wrong with your approximation. So, balikan mo ulit yung process kanina kung paano mag-approximate ng square root ng irrational numbers. And then, kapag nakuha mo na yun, I guess, makukuha mo na rin yung plotting natin ng irrational numbers. So, that's all for today. Thank you for listening. Hope you understand our lesson. Bye!